Did you know that even if it's your job to play video games, playing the same game over and over again can make you feel a little burnt out? Sure, the first time you take on Elden Ring, it's a majestic open world experience that you're so excited for. But after attempt number 300, it's sort of just like data entry. Except when you make cell B1 equal the sum of column A, Radon doesn't try to kill you. All that to say, it might make me a little crabby. Which is why today, we're playing a game that literally makes me a little crabby. It's time for another Crab's Treasure. Thanks for coming to Tulok Time. You're gonna love it here. Starting with a little base overview and review, for those of you who don't know what this game is, this will be totally spoiler free, so you can pause the video and go play it if you're a coward who fears spoiled crab and doesn't delight in spoiled seafood. Another Crab's Treasure has been described as Crab Souls or Elden Ring, but you're a crab, or Bloodborne, but with even more interdimensional horrors that are really just actual deep sea fish. Playing through it though, that's somewhat accurate, but I'd more say it's a fusion of Dark Souls and a PS2 era platformer, and I mean that is very, very high praise. Personally, I think the PS2 era was peak. Games took 20 to 30 hours to beat. Maybe there was a little exploring, but the exploration was fun and packed with meaningful stuff because the worlds had to be a little bit smaller by necessity. Now in your open worlds, you can spend 2 hours going through some side content the devs knew wasn't hot stuff, because if it was hot stuff, it'd be the main content. Only to get a mediocre shield you're never going to use, or even worse, just to open up a map fragment. Or even worse, just XP. Disgusting. I really only have one negative for this game, and it's my fault. Sometimes it felt like the overworld enemies were a bit overtuned. They did too much damage, which was frustrating to me as a creator who eventually has to turn this into a video. But here's the thing. You can turn the enemy damage down in the menu. You can turn it off in the menu. You can slow down time in the menu to help you land some trickier jumps. You can scale your damage up in the menu. You can literally just give Krill a gun that one-shots every enemy in the menu. This is all for accessibility to make sure anyone can play this game. Why didn't I adjust these settings? Because of my damn Saiyan pride. But remember, you can always just lower the difficulty and retry. Another Crab's Treasure was developed by Aggro Crab, a team of 13 people, and when you see how big this game is, that's amazing. I would say this is a great example of sustainable gaming that the whole industry could look at as a goal, but honestly, 13 people shouldn't be able to make something this big that's still so full of little treasures. When it comes to Crab Souls-likes, this is the real deal. No imitation crab here. Okay, cool. Game reviewed. Spoilers, unspoiled. Now let's get on with the challenge. What is the challenge? Can I beat another Crab's Treasure without the gun? Isn't that just beating it normally, Phil? Yeah, we're just playing games here. Welcome to Tulok Time. It's where I just enjoy myself and turn that enjoyment into videos. But thumbnail's got a thumbnail, so hope you liked that one. Like, subscribe, Patreon, I have a Twitch, whatever. If you want to do that, you already did. Thanks again to Beth for being the executive producer of this episode. Now, it's time to crab. We're going to start off on the beautiful sandy shoals and are immediately accosted by the loan shark. He's working for the new queen of the region who has decided she not only owns our shoals, but she owns everything on them, and we haven't paid our taxes. Currency of this game is introduced to not shiny coins, but to trash. The economic system is garbage.
I know writers who use subtext and they're all cowards.
Which means no more shell for us. We have a shell of a time trying to chase down that shark, but alas, he's too fast. Guess it's time to cowabunga. Our hero Krill tried to reject the call, but he has been thrust out of the status quo and into a great big adventure. First thing you'll notice when you dive into the ocean, your jump now flutters, or should I say floats. It's a similar feel to like a spiral, and I think it's worth noting that you start platforming before you start fighting. Like, I get why the game was pitched as a Souls-like, because Souls-like is that new hotness that every game's gotta be. But if you're craving a nice little platformer, Crab Game's pretty good at that too. Until we're attacked. Now the real crab's holes begins, only we don't have a weapon. If you're gonna fight crabs, it's best to bring something forking strong, like a fork. Unlike a Souls game, you only get one weapon. It's the only weapon you get. Might seem like you can't make builds with that, but what if there was a different system? I'd be shocked. System shocked. This game's not like System Shock. Finally caught up to the shark, but he is dipping to slack tide, which means it's time for the shallows. And Corey, let's just sample the music, does something right here, right at the beginning.
You're right, it tastes good.
With how small the team is, you can literally go to the Aggro Crab website for specific shoutouts. So Felix and Winter on sound design and composition, you proud of yourselves? You should be. banger job. This is our first open area with some exploration and some jumping hooks up there hanging in the sky. Like every good platformer, we're going to get more mobility options as the game progresses. But for now, we'll just run around and hack up some base enemies. Occasionally there is a purpose to it, or should I say porpoise? No, I shouldn't. There are no porpoises here. But we save a crab in a sandcastle, get a Bloodstar limb. Think of it as a piece of heart from Zelda. You get 5 of them and you get more health. There are 4 stats to focus on: vitality, resistance, attack, and MSG. The first 3 are pretty obvious. The last one is for later, if I'm gonna be a spell user.
Like that's ever gonna happen.
Occasionally you'll see some glowy-eyed enemies, beat them up for some special umami currency, a surprise tool that will help us later. You can also get them from busting up purple crystals that you see hanging around. I was having a lot of fun exploring because the art direction is so pleasant. Like, you can just look around and see so many funny, pretty clever details. Galen on the art direction and Kevin on environments. Again, banger job. Don't worry, this whole video isn't just going to be praising the team, because there's only 13 of them. Eventually, we got to make progress. Now, we need a shell to get into Slacktide, which you would know if I showed you that, but I didn't because I played the first 2 hours of this game before, and I knew where to go. Sorry. Our first shell is the soda can, and this is where the build variety comes in, something I would talk about if I weren't immediately attacked. Nephro is the captain of the guard, and also the Margit Father Gascogwini, or Phalanx Demon's Holes of this game. He's the immediate skill check, but also a tutorial for 3 different mechanics. First, shell. Your shell is armor, but it's also a shield that you can put it on and block with. If you release the block at the perfect time, you don't lose shell health, basically a durability bar in the blue right above your health bar. Normally I don't love durability in games, but here, swapping into a new shell is fast enough that it's no big deal, and every boss fight is littered with shells. Almost like our ocean is littered with so much garbage, it's literally everywhere.
Message!
It's something so core to the identity of this game, but it's very much its own thing. I think a lot of Souls-likes just make Dark Souls, but a little worse. Miyazaki's been cooking up the same recipe for over a decade now. It's pretty hard to come in and do a better job without adding a new ingredient. Maybe the new ingredient was crab. The shell mechanic makes this game so much different than any other Souls-like, which is a great incentive to play this one instead of just Bloodborne, but a little worse, or Elden Ring, but a little worse. Mechanic 2. Getting freaking grabbed, it's bad. You can't block a grab, but they have a big red crab sign show up to tell you to roll. Doesn't mean I hit the rolls, it just means that I probably should have. And finally, posture. That little bar growing under the boss's health lets you know how close they are to a stance break. I don't remember what the actual official term is. I'm calling it a stance break because that's what it is in Elden Ring. It also goes up when you parry properly, which I don't do often because of my original sin. Never was tough because we're still missing a key ability we're going to get later. More on that later. Obviously, we made it to Slacktide. There's a lot of dialogue in the game and we're going to kind of yada 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 it for this video. That means it's a whole element of the game you get to experience when you play it. Time for another shout out to the team. That's Kalen, the creative director and narrative lead. I'm assuming is the lead writer, just a narrative lead because no one else is listed as a writer. So I'm going to go with Kalen. Also one of the directors of the game. Fantastic job. Magista is the queen, and the queen stays queen. She wants something shiny to pay off our taxes, which really shouldn't be all that hard to grab, especially after we get a fishing line. Our platforming has been upgraded, and now we can grapple onto stuff and yoink on up. Finally, a Souls-like with mobility and platforming as a core element.
Am I a joke to you?
After zipping out of Slacktide, we meet the Moon Snail. They like to narrate a little bit, but also give us a cool power, shell spells, and umami. Every shell has a unique spell ability that uses your umami. Pop cans make homing bubbles, and boy howdy, what a solid B-tier shell. It is fine. It's not great, it's not bad. Personally, I wouldn't say that the soda can get it, but the tin can. No, this one has shell shock, letting you shock with your shell when you block to rocket enemies off the block. Time for more dev praising. Every path you go down has a few short little side paths with extra items, but there's still definitive directions to move in, so you don't get distracted and just go somewhere that doesn't matter for hours on end. I like that. We get an upgrade to our heart kelp. Oh, that's the flasks because we explored, but we're not losing hours of time. Especially for a small team, this level of exploration is perfect, really threading the needle. It's really ideal for me. It's a game that respects you as an adult who might have other things to do. Level designer Phil, I appreciate you. Also, got to appreciate a fellow Phil. Boss time, the polluted platoon Pathfinder pops RPs all over the mic. Sorry if that popped in your ears. And it puts our shell shock to good use until that shell breaks. That's okay. We get to experience the thrill of reloading mid-battle like Revolver Ocelot. Fizzle's pretty great at keeping the stance pressure up from afar. Pathfinder also introduces these smash attacks. Big attacks that you shouldn't block because they're going to destroy your shell. Phase 2, he goes a little faster with half a bottle, but it's not an issue. I'm simply goated on the sticks. Moonsnail gives us a skill tree, and I'm gonna be real. Invest in the big violence one at the top right. You should have enough purple stuff. You've been exploring to get a few things. We get the parry and the riposte because I'm still trying to atone for my original sin.
Stop saying shit like that.
We naturally use our grappling hook around the shallows and pick up some items, but we'll just skip over that to talk about an optional boss, the Royal Shell Splitter. Technically, you can come fight this guy before any other bosses, but doing it without a shell feels insane to me. Also, that grab is...
Is that metal?
I hate to say it, but yeah. Not to be contradictory, but it's very metal.
Sorry, easy fix. Don't get grabbed. Instead, hit the boss and scoot around to the side until we're frightened. It's a status effect that stops you from attacking for a little bit. What? Am I frightened just because this guy decapitated me 2 minutes ago? What a weird thing to be afraid of. We almost get grabbed again right at the end, but make it out for 500 microplastics? That's not a lot. It's also a bit of umami we can use to upgrade our shell abilities, though. Returning to Slack Tide, everyone has been driven mad from the gunk, a poison side effect of the microplastics in the ocean. But if microplastics are the currency, does that mean this game is saying that money is garbage that melts your brain and will drive society to violence? While also adding in a ludo-narrative reason to dislike pollution? Oh my god, I just realized the whole story of the game, we're a homeless person trying to find a home.
Message!
Damn, I think this crab game might be unfathomably based, or at least several fathoms. Also, if it wasn't clear, there are probably like 500 puns floating around the game. If you like the puns on the channel, you kind of like the puns in the game. A guard chases us on the way into this boss fight, and he continues into the cutscene up the wall. Amazing. Look, I know it might not seem like a glitch is the best place to shout out the programmer and technical director, but considering the absolute scope of this game and the fact that most of the glitches are just kind of silly stuff like this that didn't break the game, great work. It's also kind of a thankless job, because when you do it right, nobody notices how smooth everything is, and hey, I noticed. Great work, Storm and CJ. Also, funny lobster climbing the wall. The Duchess is a poison boss. You knew we were gonna get one eventually. She's got a big tea bag, but we're the one going nuts. Coconuts.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
It's a heavy shell, which means it's got the most defense, but also makes you kinda roll poorly. Except it also makes you roll really well because of its shell spell, Roll Out. Does right what it says on the tin. It rolls out and in and does a nice amount of damage and stance damage. Oh, and you can get stance breaks with shell spells. Getting gunked is rough. You take a lot of extra damage from the poison. I went a nice counterattack and then gotta live long enough to roll in. Easy first try win. If you saw me do this the first time we streamed it, it was not an easy first try win, and also no you didn't. That VOD doesn't exist. Now that we beat the queen who took our shell, we get it back, right? But the loan shark is just gonna take it, because he's decided he owns it.
Private property's inherently theft.
I guess if we want to get our shell back, we're gonna have to move to the city. Hopefully, there's no holiday traffic.
Garbage day! Huh? No!
We open up the path to the city, talk to Firth for the first time. He collected a bunch of garbage, and now he wants to trade it up for some better stuff in the city. He's really mad that the bridge is out. Ah, well, surely this will be a friend forever, and definitely not a guy I hate a whole lot. After a bit of platforming off the beaten path, we make our way into New Carinia. Haha, what happened to old Carinia? It's a New York reference, I get it. Tortellini lets us know there are 4 places that Shark might have sold our shell to: the pawn shop, the blacksmith shop, the museum, and the bar. Blacksmith gives upgrades with the fork, which actually gives us more attack. I like that you can increase all of your stats without leveling up. Vitality with the Bloodstar limbs, MSG with the Moonsnail, resistance with shells, and attack just by upgrading the fork. Probably makes level 1 runs a lot more reasonable, which would be great, but I'm not doing that. I'm just having fun playing the game. Nema runs the bar. She's also great, apparently. Apparently a lot of chat were thirsty for her, but I don't get it. I'm not a furry, or I guess shelly in this? I don't know what the term would be. Conch runs the museum. He also hasn't bought our shell, but is really into lore. And finally, the Shellfish Desires, a brick and mortar version to the Shellfish Corporation, hasn't been sold our shell. Hey, do you think they noticed that Shellfish Corporation sounds a lot like Selfish Corporation? Probably a coincidence. There's no way this game's anti-capitalist. After we talk to all of them, we get a cutscene where we meet Praanathan. He's got my shell. Totally not the loan shark. This is a shrimp. That was a shark. Totally different guy. Not sus. Then it's time for garbage day. The giant island of garbage floating above us is raining down trash. Thank God that's not a thing in real life.
I'm gonna tell him.
Don't you dare.
A treasure map cereal box falls and everyone believes that there's a treasure at the end of it that is real. And it's not just a map for kids to play with while they eat breakfast. There's just one piece of treasure. And I believe that one piece is real.
Come aboard and bring along all your hopes and dreams.
Roland is the owner of the Shellfish Corporation and assumes it will be his because the corporation owns everything in the city. Inkerton is his very subtly named henchman enforcer. But hey, what if we got the treasure first? Time to start a journey to find the missing pieces of the puzzle, and that starts in the sands between.
Get it?
Oh hey, Tomatoa is a giant crab. Wonder if we'll ever run into any of those. It's Pagarus, the Ravenous. And he hangs out just off the beaten path of the sands between. Stray too far from the main path, and this mother shucker will straight up end you. Here's the thing about Pagarus. Is he really that threatening? Yes. But is he really that bad? Also, yes. On our path, we find the probiotic shell, and it regens your health at an actually reasonable pace. Like, if this is how regen shit worked in Elden Ring, I would use it. Still, basic enemies are hitting pretty hard, and we lost our microplastics, which means, Pagarus, I got nothing to lose. By the way, you can also turn off losing your runes on death because, again, this game's very accessible if you're looking to try a new Souls-like for the first time. As we keep trying, we figure out the basic timing for his attacks, ways to get the parry off, and are barely putting a dent in. Oh, also we have a new technique from beating the Queen, a big claw attack. After we hit an enemy with it, they take a little more damage. It uses umami though, so we're mostly using that for regen. Also, since we die over there, our shell is there to be recovered. Running away isn't really an option because he's got this jump attack he uses to catch you as you're trying to run. Funny thing though, if you fight him by a cliff... Oh!
Yeah. Well, I'm taller.
It's not exactly the way they intend for you to do the boss order, but if no one wants these 20,000 microplastics, I'll take them. He drops a map fragment, which, unlike in Elden Ring, actually matters. Sometimes it hurts to be this talented. Oh, and apparently he's allergic to bananas, but making him fall off really isn't hard. I've done it a few times, and the banana shell spell sucks. So, I just make him jump. No, intended routing was not beating the super boss, it was in the poison swamp. But at the Grace, we get to level up a little bit from level 13 to 20. And we have plenty of umami crystals to get the shell health skill, which effectively gives us a Bloodborne shell recovery, like the rally system, but just for your shell. Again, this isn't so much Dark Souls as it is Sekiro and Bloodborne. It's a lot less of a dodge Souls and more of a block Souls. Outside the poison swamp, we meet Chitin, a lady who wants to kill the oppressors and get the power to do so. She calls us a vagabond, which is funny because it's the opposite of hermit. Hermits stay in their home. Vagabonds roam, searching for a home. Firth is here and says that everyone in the village went crazy and murdered each other, doesn't seem bothered by it because it's not happening in his neighborhood. Wow. What a apathetic approach to the rest of the world. I wonder if his perspective will be something the game endorses later.
I doubt it, but you never know.
Everyone says Miyazaki's poison swamp fetish is proof he's a sadist, but honestly his archers are always worse, and the archers are also worse in this game. After some platforming, we make it to the diseased lycanthrope, and this boss sucks. Literally. He's got a big suck attack where he tries to gobble you up. As for the quality, it's alright. Not the best boss in the game, but a nice breakup from the platforming. Only takes us 2 tries, and we're fast enough that he never gets us. If you're not fast,
You'll be sucked.
Time for the Archer path, which is a wee bit difficult to get through. However, there are multiple different paths you can take to get through, depending on the platforming you like. Some great level design. Before we move further, I return the map fragment to Conch, and he's a bit annoyed that we killed Pagarus before we did the rest of the stuff we were supposed to do. Don't hate, it's an open ocean game, man. I'm just exploring. But alas, let's make some progress and head up through the Rainbow River, which is just sludge and pollution and oil. I'm starting to wonder if all the trash making its way into the ocean might be bad.
Message!
There's a lot of little details in the game to notice. I can't point them all out, but this one, the McDonald's fries are amogus. This one feels important. At the end of the big oil river, we can climb down a big oil drum and find a big tube that you can ride down in a ramp in a sick way. This would be a point of frustration for me for some time, but here's the solution. Don't use the tube. Just find where Nema is on the oil drum and jump and flutter down. And your reward is a shark tooth. If you don't need a shark tooth, not really worth it at all. But then we find Hykeia. This guy's no imitation, he's intimidation. Crab, specifically because his shell attack can frighten you as he chops you up with his sticks. Our shells in the area are pretty limited. Twist Top is not my favorite, but we have it stuck on us for a while. Thimble is better, with the Fortify shell spell basically just making it take no shell damage. Phase 2, he starts power stancing to chopsticks, which makes them a lot more effective, and that makes sense. Chopsticks kind of need to be separated. Getting grabbed is bad, stop doing that. Crab grabs are not ideal. The sushi roll gives you some extra healing, but you probably end up snacking on the sushi, getting rid of it, which also feels a bit like cannibalism, and personally, I think cannibalism is cringe. It's really more about making the thimble last as long as possible. It's the best option in my opinion. We get into a good rhythm, hit the big crab claw, it takes about 30 minutes. Jump in and avoid the big slam. Then roll for the grab and hit the claw for more damage. I fudged up and took a bunch of extra damage and hits we didn't need to, but we're okay. Get the stance break and crab claw off right before the phase transition, and then get grabbed. Like I said, getting grabbed is bad, but I gotta admit, it looks pretty rad. So let's get grabbed again. He breaks our shell and we're out of healing, with a third of his health bar still left. But the thimble is just a better shell anyway, and should help us play way more defensively. If we ever need to heal, we just back off, grab some sushi, and then get back in with the thimble. Believe it or not, metal is more defensive than seaweed and rice. Few more hits, we get a win. We use those umami crystals for the best upgrade yet, the hammer. You can put your shell on the end of your fork to make it a hammer. Different shells have different weights and have different effects, and it basically lets you store an extra set of armor. I can't think of another game that has anything like remotely similar to this. Maybe it exists, but it seems like a totally unique concept that only works because of the specific identity of this game. And when playing a Souls-like, of a specific identity. More cool platforming, really cool jumpy puzzles that aren't the easiest to narrate. I'm used to narrating bosses, though if I'm gonna be doing Astrobot next, maybe I should figure it out. We make it all the way back to the Curdled Village, and there's straight up snipers in here. It's intense. But it's also a great place to practice our hammer and see just what this thing can do. Worth noting, hitting things with the shell as a hammer does in fact damage the shell, but it also increases your damage and stance pressure so drastically, it is so worth it. Just some hopping, skipping, and jumping, and we meet Chitin outside the boss fight. Gravekeeper Tapada isn't Irish, but he should be, like Tapa da Mornin, you know? He's a boxer with a rapid hit combo that are really easy to block, and a feint that is not easy to block. The arena is littered with crab shells you can use for decoys and heavy hammers. It takes about 10 minutes to get the pattern down. I don't think he's that much easier than the imitation crab. I think we just have a goddamn hammer now. I was really trying to make a caster build work, but the call of Unga Bunga, the call of my original sin.
Just want you to stop saying odd shit.
We balance keeping the pressure up and using crabs as actual shields. You don't actually take shell damage from the rapid strikes until the final hit you're blocking. Oh, also we found a coconut. With the heavy defense and our skill, we can get it smashed. And I have to scramble until we can get a crab on our back. Then we lock in. The teleporting falcon punch is no problem for us. After we beat him, he decides to teach us his punch.
To reach the limits of your strength, you must comprehend the spiral.
Oh. Yeah, I'm great at spiraling. I do it all the time. Oh, Krill, just like me for real. The punch can break down these weird cubes you find all around, and you can upgrade it to get it hyper armor, which is huge. I mean, it's not the ultimate technique, though. It's not like we can just punch our way out of crabitalism. After we get the map fragment, we get word that the next map piece is in Flotsam Vale, Roland and the Shellfish Corporation's Company Town. I'm sure the Company Town is doing great, as company towns famously do, although does Company Town imply the existence of Jiznickel City?
You gotta think about it.
Think about it.
We get a little lost looking for the town, but end up finding some neat stuff in the sands between. We'll skip through an hour of exploration and just hit the good stuff. We found an outfit that makes us look like John Dark Souls from the Elden Ring franchise. A cool jet that lets us fly like a Spirit Spring from the John Dark Souls franchise. Crab rave. But yeah, we wasted about an hour not figuring out where the hell we were supposed to go. Eventually I figured out it's another poison swamp.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
And as we enter the town, Inkerton attacks us. Hey, I didn't open any magic cards early. You can't just send the Inkertons after us. But this dude is a weakling. We get him to like 25% of his health and he runs in fear. Nama lets us know that Flotsam Vale is in terrible shape, covered in pollution because Roland is good at doing business. And good business comes at the expense of the workers and the environment.
Message!
Now this area has some enemies that suck, but this time it's figurative and literal. The diseased lycanthrope is a basic enemy now, except it can't spawn ads and it tries to suck you while you're in a swamp that limits your movement options. Remember, gamers, if you're not in Workers' Rights Town, you're in Workers' Blight Town. Ludo-narratively, it makes sense that the Ejaculate Dime Town is the worst level in the game, but like oof, that oof is high praise. I'm a Souls enjoyer, so after all the pain is over, I really appreciate the sadism. Also, the interrupt the poison swamp with little islands like this one. It's an old west town with cowpoke mantis shrimp who are rootin', tootin', shootin', and putting you on the defensive. There's also a shotgun shell you can use to blow up and jump in the air, but I don't like it. It gets rid of your shell, so let's go for the Lego brick. Oh, sorry, legal brick. It's legally distinct, the best kind of distinct. God, I love this game. Nick on art direction and Jobo on production. Amazing stuff. You know what? I'm gonna finish off the team here because I really don't know when to shout out Nick in animation. The whole game's animated, and little details like Krill's arms spinning when he flutter jumps, or the hacky sack with the heart kelp pods if you idled a game. You didn't have to do that, but you did. All those subtle little details in the animation make this game feel like it has a massive team. It's a small team. Finally, someone who doesn't really get shown off in the gameplay of the video, community manager, Paige. I've seen the YouTube shorts and watched them despite playing the game. Just really fun energy, good community relations, really important, and I make it clear how much I love the game and the team here because the ocean's about to get very, very salty, and I'm gonna get more than a little crabby. We find a tube and a switch by the door. It needs electricity to activate it. Jot that down for later. I tried using the tin can shell. It doesn't work, even though I'm a genius for thinking of that. We find optional boss Scuttling Sludge Steamroller, who basically one-shots us. It's my fault for getting hit. Then we fall through the floor and miss our recovery. I'm gonna gripe. In this area specifically, there are little gaps in the dock floorboards that you could fall through. Think they're there for aesthetic reasons. Actually navigating them within the game is really frustrating. Falling down between them feels really, really bad. Attempt 2, we hit Scuttling Sludge with a big punch, and the stance pressure is bananas. We also have a finisher attack now. Enemies get knocked over. It does massive damage. Yeah, not that hard of a fight actually. You just don't get hit by the big blue attacks. On our way to the Grace, we fall through the floor again, and jumping out bonks our head on the top. Eventually we make it out, but yeah, I didn't like that. There's Firth. He's here with us and is so surprised that Roland would let his workers suffer like this. Obviously, as a business genius, Roland should be able to make the best stuff and make a lot of money to make his workers happy too. Hey, maybe he's right, and Roland will be shocked when he finds out about all this.
Sure, Jan.
This little area actually goes above the water for a second. Wild. Then it's time for the Ceviche sisters. 2 gunslingers who get our goat the first attempt. Thankfully, we get a jellyfish to respawn us right back in, so we hit them with a big old falcon punch. It's so good. They share a health bar, but have individual stance and also not a ton of health individually. Once we beat them, we get a new umami ability, the shrimp gun, not to be confused with the gun in the menu that one-shots everything. This is just pretty good. Not a one-shot. Finally, we make it to the top and get our last map piece. Conch figures out it's in the slurry, but Roland is the only one with a big enough boat. It's a big old ocean full of sludge pocketed up in the ocean. Thank God that's not our thing in real life. Firth is pretty sure the free market will work out in our favor if we have the best ideas and work the hardest.
Oh, honey.
Yeah, that boat doesn't work. We need electricity. The gun is not electricity, it's just a gun. Shell shock does not work. If we want to make this thing go, we need some serious charge. Firth believes he has the solution as a genius small business owner. You just have to get into the Shellfish Corporation. Firth will do the negotiating and we'll do the considerable violence. I wonder which one will be more effective when working with a corporation to get something the common people need desperately. Remember that big tube with the switch that did nothing before? Yeah, that's the solution to getting the door open. Didn't realize that because when I tried it earlier it did nothing, so let's just skip ahead about 30 minutes while I try to solve the puzzle that is flip the switch by the door. There we go, we did it. There's a lot of lockers and a lot of workers here, but it seems like they're all being treated poorly and abused by their boss. My goodness, oh my god, I am shocked. Time for a puzzle for children. There's a big magnet. We have a metal shell. I try jumping. Doesn't work. I try attacking. Doesn't work. I try grappling. Doesn't work. I swap to a different metal shell. Doesn't work. Fire, water, air, dirt.
Fucking magnets. How do they work?
You have to go into the shell. Apparently that's what magnetizes the shell, and I am the fool. Yeah, this is the salty section of the game. Krill starts to realize that the whole society is built on cruelty and forcing people to compete with one another for a false scarcity of resources. That's driving cruelty to an absurd degree. Firth says, no, if the system is bad, it wouldn't be the system. Duh, more magnet puzzles. We gotta go all the way to the bottom to get the lug, then fight a new enemy, Aggro Crab. He kills us, and I was a little too salty at the end of that day, so that's the end of that stream. Back again, the Shockhammer guy isn't all that bad. Okay, he is pretty bad, but he's not even the boss. This is probably one of those cases where the basic enemies of the area are more frustrating than the actual boss, right? We talk to Firth again, and he starts to feel some empathy for the workers, until he can't stop being a simp for the corporate owner. Ugh, this guy's the worst. Remember, it's your job to be patient with guys like this. Educate them. It's your responsibility, no matter how frustrating it gets. I'm sure that's the moral message at the end of the game.
You sure about that?
The Falcon Punch is a godsend navigating through this world, basically just letting us one-shot any basic enemy, telling them to shuck off, which I did in less sailory terms nearly every time I hit them with it. Tech discovered. Wait, Rubber Ducky doesn't conduct. If you use the Rubber Ducky shell against the electric enemies, it doesn't conduct electricity.
Rubber ducky, you're the one.
Also, if you put it on the end of your fork, you're basically Melania Blade of Mikola, hitting the waterfowl dance, you know? Just kidding, it's a pretty heavy shell. It makes the hammer pretty heavy. Right before the boss, we find Firth, and he's decided the only way to fix the system is if he gets really rich. And then he can give his money to charities. That's literally effective altruism, the same thing Sam Bankman-Fried was into. Let's see how he's doing. Huh. Krill thinks we should just give the money to people directly who need it, but Firth knows the dirty poors wouldn't know what to do with this money. I want to jump in a big hole of trash. Look, a convenient big hole of trash. Time to fight Voltai the Accumulator. She's an eel that lives in the trash, and something happens that's concerning. She does not have a stance meter. Uh-oh. That has been our entire strategy for this area with the Falcon Punch. Her phase 2 weapon is... Oh my god, okay. Maybe the game needs a T for team. Wait, that's just the Vibe Scepter from Super Princess Peach. Classic video game homage. Next phase, the toaster. Underwater.
Why shouldn't you put a toaster in a bathtub full of water?
Because your toast would get soggy.
And the worst phase is the Shocky. I don't know what it is. It looks like a cheese grater. Spoilers, y'all. This is my least favorite boss in the game. Jumping over the Shocky Shockwave is pretty miserable. Even the hair dryer can kind of stun lock you a little bit. Toaster's not all that bad. You just have to platform on the unlimited toast. But I definitely have the most fun with the vibrator. Don't clip that. Probiotic healing is a big help, but once we get to the Shockwave phase, it's just over for us. You can't jump over it if you're not on the platforms on the inside and there isn't enough time to run in and punish. I don't get what you're supposed to do. We have the Mantis Shrimp Shot, but that only works until we run out of umami. Apparently the section is easy if you've unlocked the combat grappling hook, but we haven't. So like, oof. Finally make it to phase 2 and now the floor is poison. Toaster is honestly the best for this phase, just giving you some platforms to hop over the mucky muck, and then the shockwaves happen again. We wait it out and then swap up our talismans, putting on the rubber band to resist electricity damage, and get more physical damage from the hammer instead of stance damage. And then we wait to see if the shockwave phase ends on its own. It doesn't. Just gotta charge in, one more vibrator phase. I'm happy we get to finish with the vibrator. Wait.
Delete that footage.
Boat's charged, let's go meet up with Roland. Chitin and Nema are linking up, and by the way, this isn't a boat, it's a solid ship. You know what I'm talking about? Firth wants to use the treasure for charity, Conch wants to use it for the museum, Nema wants to renovate her bar, and Krill is just trying to get his shell back. It's sad, but when you're made so desperate for basic needs like shelter, you have to end up prioritizing yourself. It's almost as though this capitalistic society is forcing the lower classes to compete with one another so they don't join together and overthrow their oppressors.
Message!
Roland's barge is a big arcade machine. Treasure belongs to all of us, so if Roland won't give it up, we're gonna take it. Plain and simple.
I couldn't have said it better. You have a warrior spirit after all, little pink crab.
Well, golly, I'm blushing over here. Gay, homosexual. Oh god, I should have known this was a bad crowd. Firth is homophobic? Common Firth L. Final boss of the game. Defeat homophobia and kill Firth. Nah, Firth isn't gonna be the final boss. He's just a basic bitch capitalist. The jets on Roland's barge aren't as bad as I make them seem. I just thought the windows were gonna be super tight, so I was trying to jump like they were super tight. Nothing Roland does is super tight. He sucks. Top 10 anime battles, Chitin versus Inkerton. This shit is hype as hell. I saw people saying Roland is one of the harder boss fights, but like, do y'all not have Falcon Punch? Because we absolutely toast this dude. Just break his stance, stab him on the ground, take him to goddamn Econ class. His ass gets saved by the cutscene, and then Krill hits the cowabunga onto the treasure. Everyone sinks. Game over, man. Let's get deep.
I wanna sink to the bottom with you.
Everything is dark, terrible, and sucks. And in the game, same story. A spooky voice is guiding us through the abyss and we can't run.
Until you're part of this turbo team, walk slowly.
Firth tells us to go get eaten somewhere. The mood of this little crab game has taken a turn. Almost as though it's some sort of Act 2 shift. Then we get jumped by a million mites and Nema rescues us. After some recovery, the spiral begins calling to us. Basically, your typical call to the void to make us go deeper, sink deeper, give up.
Kids, could you lighten up a little?
Good idea, Marge. Let's light some torches, like it's Nokron in this bitch. The deep sea fish are messed up freaks that shouldn't exist. Also more spiral, telling us about how everything sinks to the bottom and trying is futile. But if that's so true, why did we find a little glowfish buddy? I think he's neat. There's even item mimics here, anglerfish, taking advantage of my desire to touch the shiny and jump out and attack you. Also, like, no moonshells to rest at. Uh-oh. Finally, we find a moonshell snail, and
It's a trap.
it fights just like us, rolling out, having shell spells, making crystals. Okay, we don't make crystals, but thanks to the power of the giant falcon punch, we can break them down super fast and then hammer away with our hammer skills. And I still die. This one's a little tricky, not gonna lie. Unga Bunga is just absurdly powerful in every game. Try it in chess. Don't play strategically, just slam your rooks into everything. Oh, but they only move in straight lines. Yeah, if you're a coward. Kant shows up and dumps some lore about the perfect world. No, not talking about Wick. I was so excited for Grixis Rats, but it's already got more than 3,200 decks, so it's not a commander I hardly know. But basically, it's a great treasure shell made by a king that only hermit crab sorcerers could control. Beating the false shell gave us a false shell umami ability, but we can pick up shells from wherever. I don't really need to use my umami for that. Nema says we can quit the adventure and just stay with her at her bar, but I'm getting that shell back. After all this time, I'm getting it back. I'm the John Wick of the Crab Kingdom. Moving through the deep, you know that silence brand meme? Well, now that's a basic enemy, and we get silenced. Eventually we bust through and get our platforming on, but it is a brutal stretch since two big silence brand crabs respawn every time. It is a major oof. Chitin apparently killed one super easy, not surprising, she's super based. Speaking of, Inkerton decides he doesn't want to be the hired muscle for Roland anymore and opens fire. Then we get to fight Inkerton. He's got a trick weapon, he can change, and a blunderbuss. It's just like Bloodborne. Well, not really. This game's on PC.
Oh, no, you cannot joke about that.
So Inkerton's pretty frail, and one punch is almost enough to knock him on his ass. Do squids have asses? 8 legs? 9 buttholes, presumably. Not looking it up, but that means the start of the fight will always have a free combo. Then we build meter and get a big punch off. I really love the meter building system for magic in this game. It's a consumable resource, but it's not something you just lose forever. Sometimes he turns the lights out, but it only takes a few tries to get it done. Inkerton's down. Score 1 for the working crabs. That's what you get for busting unions, fucker. Sometimes you bust the union, sometimes the union busts you. Gonch tells us to put our butt in a special chair, and we go down a big elevator, like we're in the Saoirse Ronan River well. And just like that, we get a reveal. Ooh, what? The fuck? Old ocean, here we are. Let's get medieval, I guess. We kick it off in some old reefs. They're dying. Good thing we haven't already hit the point of ocean warming where the reefs are going to collapse as an ecosystem, causing catastrophic damage that moves up the food chain and will starve populations dependent on fish for food. Never mind that, there's bubble platforming. Boy, I love that they keep adding new mechanics, except the denture mimics that jump on your back and destroy your shell, so you can't swap shells while wearing it. That mechanic sucks, in a fun way. Like, I want to be hurt so I can get mad at the game and funnel my rage through it. And there's a castle, but we're getting shot shot at by durability missiles. Yeah, there's a new status mechanic that ruins the durability of your shell and then poisons you. Yikes. Thankfully, we can just jump off the bridge and unlock a new platforming mechanic, shaving cream. Boy, they are adding a lot more platforming mechanics here for this level. Wonder if we're gonna get to do some absolutely gnarly combos later. Gate open. We've got lobster guards that hit like a truck. Uh-oh. Back to the top, I guess. When we come back, we get our revenge and just falcon punch him off a cliff. Deal with that, dork. Wait, this is Old Carinia. We've been to New Carinia. Oh shit. Yeah, remember at the beginning of the episode when I said that like it was a joke? It wasn't. And Old Carinia is this game's Farum Azula, but dare I say, I like this one a little better. Farum Azula is a bunch of floating ruins outside of time and space that you gotta jump through with a character that can't jump. So putting Farum Azula in a game where your character can jump is in fact good at jumping, and the designers care about jumping in ways that aren't, haha, we made you jump in the game where jumping sucks. It makes this level absolutely pop off. It goes from equal parts platformer to action RPG to no, we're doing Mario Galaxy shit, put your jumping shoes on. Trampolines, grappling hooks, soap bubbles, crucible night lobsters, nets, let's go. It also starts to sink in that I started off by going through like a castle and fighting some guards, and now look at us. The sense of scale building as this game goes on is so smooth, you don't really even realize it until you're floating through the ruins of a society lost to time. You even get to run on the rooftops like it's Aner Londo. And what more could you want? Oh, archers that shoot you with poison, of course. This area also turns up that exploration for some extra stuffitude to the max. I think I covered it pretty thoroughly, but I'm gonna be honest, I missed something. Like, look at all this epic platforming. Look. Holy shit. Onto the bubble. First try. First try, gamers. And this is not mandatory stuff. This was an optional platforming task. See foam? Yeah, it's right there. No, but for real though, I know I probably missed the poop stomper again. Classic mistake on my end. Phil, the poop stomper fully trivializes the rest of the endgame bosses. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't looking up guides. Just playing for fun, exploring at my leisure, which means sometimes I accidentally make progress instead of finding items. I know, take a second to breathe. However, Falcon Punch is technically optional, so opening this cube is extra, even though there is a lot behind it, like this double elevator fake-out puzzle with an extra bit of umami in there, then epic obstacle course that's definitely gotta be required. At one point I got a little stuck because I didn't realize that it's spray foam, walk through the wall, bubble jump, blind, back onto the foam, grapple hook onto the island. Naturally, it takes us to an island where there's another crab and I guess a new shell?
Is that it?
Well, this is apparently the Olivia Rodrigo shell. At least that's what I think it is, because everyone kept saying it was a Guts reference. It's got the biggest, bluest bar by far in the game, and when you put it on the end of your fork, it's more like a hunk of raw iron than a weapon. If this game has an Ultima shell, it's this. Hey Spiral, how you doing? All things will die and our only hope is to embrace oblivion? Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. We make it into the castle with Conch. I must admit something to you, child. This city, it's no ancient relic. As a matter of fact, I spent my childhood here, a mere 30 years ago. Holy crap, you're 30? The oldest. I didn't even know it was possible to live that long. You're older than my show. I'm getting fucking red. This game is reading me. So apparently after Conch grew up here and the trash economy destroyed it, his parents moved to New Carinia and he sees the same thing happening there. But if we just get the magic ancient superpower, everything will be fine and society will live in peace. Let's go get that magical thing solver that will solve all of the things after some shopping. Because if we get shell insurance on the Knight's helmet, we can have it every time we respawn. Which also means that if we can collect our Knight's helmet when we die, we'll have 2 of them. Also, my suspicions were confirmed. This is by far the most expensive shell to insure, meaning it's gotta be the best in the game. Time for Kamsha, the Bleached King. We get hard in the paint and smack him up. It's actually super easy. I don't think we take a hit until he sheds his shell and is reborn. Now he's got shockwaves that don't do all that much damage to us. The shell is just kind of sick. Also, he's got chattering teeth in his mouth, which is pretty horrifying. Did the Joker drop a prop bag in the ocean at some point? Why are there so many teeth on the floor? Oh well, we beat the Ancient King at the end of the Souls-like for an easy gwyn. The throne was a toilet, and we get flushed down. Bottom of the drain, we find the perfect whirl, except Conch gets stabbed by Chitin.
Not Clayton.
The spiral got to her, and we have to free her heart from its pull. Priad Duia is a jellyfish possessing our pal. We've got to beat up a bunch of possessed crabs to get her to fall down. Meanwhile, she is blasting us with the fire giant's balls. Thankfully, I have plenty of practice not ignoring the balls. Phase 2 starts up, and now there is also orbital lasers. I don't have a fellatio joke for that. She makes it away with a sliver, so we have one more mob phase where we die, even with the big ass helmet, which sucks because now we have to go into the fight where Conch dies once again, but blessing in disguise, we now have 2 helmets, and each hit with the helmet one-shots the little crabs. The extra damage should let us get a 2-cycle off. No. I have found that the gun was pretty useful in the mob phases, especially with the moon shell ability that gives us umami after we kill something with umami, letting us just chain it together. We finally win and hit the real phase 2, Priad Duia, the final scream. Without a host, this parasite is slowly just losing health, so we just have to avoid everything while it dies. And avoiding everything is a lot. There is a lot of stuff. Pretty cool final boss, but I do kind of dislike that we can't use our build. Oh. I don't think that was the final boss then. Okay, let's go upgrade everything. Yeah, it turns out we missed some bosses like the Curdled Carbonara Connoisseur. Here's the fight. Ooh, we got a storm brewing outside. Oh, that fight didn't take very long. The consortium should be a lot harder. At least it was in the side playthrough I did, so I would know where stuff was. It's got a little bit of everything. A flare gun, a tentacle, a big cage it can drop on you. When I did this in my free time, it took like an hour. It was a brutal fight, and we got one shot by like everything. But with a night helmet, super easy. Barely an inconvenience. Now we have a tentacle. I wonder if the final boss will be weak to squid. Now we can check in on Chitin, who was apparently just lying there while we went to fight the other bosses. I'm sorry. Krill is realizing that being a hermit isn't for him. He cares about people, and he's going to use the shell to fix it. If Firth didn't put it on first... Okay, Firth is the final boss. He jumps up to the top of Trash Island, and I forget we don't have a flutter jump. Pretend you didn't see me fall. Okay? Firth doesn't care about saving Chitin because he's got to save the economy. He's just going to bring Garbage Island over New Carinia and give everyone a lot of money. It's dirty in the short term, but they can use that to come up with a long-term plan to make things sustainable. He's a business genius. Also, this is the point where I realized his vest is a credit card. He's literally wearing Borrow from the Future as a wardrobe. Jesus. Firth even admonishes you for considering using violence against an honorable businessman. Krill has realized that trying to hold back his anger all this time was a mistake, and he needs to direct that anger and aim it at the people responsible. We've upgraded our squid arm to give us regen, so every time we swing in with our giant hammer, we're also swinging a tentacle, and we're also healing. Phase 1 is so easy, it's just a joke. First shell is cracked, and yeah, the avatar phase has hands. Specifically, 6 more of them, as he has tentacles too. Dude, I think you missed out on the fucking Berserk helmet. I don't want to be a dick, but I don't know. The Berserk helmet seems way better. Yeah, I'm just fucking face tanking him. With the final boss defeated, Krill has learned an important lesson. Sometimes it's not your responsibility to educate people destroying the planet. Sometimes it's better to just... Krill punches him so hard all of Trash Island explodes, which rains down onto New Carinia. The citizens seem happy about it, at least in the short term. Oh, and Firth is alive.
Hey, pal. No hard feelings, right?
Best video game ending ever. Nem is sad Chitin is dead, and we see Dune, a homeless hermit crab. We're just like him, shellless. We should appreciate the times when we had a shell. It's a nice sentiment, I suppose. Praan won't give us our home back, and hey, if someone is stopping you from getting housing, this game has a great solution. Just... We get a nice ending narration reminding us everyone of the game's themes. You can't be complacent when the world is ending. Everyone has their part to play. Small acts of kindness go a long way, like giving your shell to that shellless crab. Nothing will get better overnight, but the world is resilient. There's hope, but there's no hope without effort. This was a lovely game. Definitely my favorite new game that I've played this year. It's also the only new game I've played this year, but hey, that's the job. It's easy to feel trapped in the spiral of capitalism, but little games like this and taking a break are so great. Thanks again to Beth for commissioning the run. Let's continue taking a little time for ourselves and fighting against the capitalist system in the little ways that we can. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, cool, it's the first one on the channel. Join the Patreon to support us playing other games like this. The channel will not be monetized for a good long while, I would guess. So supporting me there is the best way to give me an economic incentive to enjoy myself. I do want this channel to be a success, but I'm really trusting that to all of you. I'm not going to burn myself out to make sure I'm posting on a regular schedule or playing hot topical games as fast as I can to get a video out. If this channel does well, it's because good folks like you like the videos, subscribe, and share the videos with your friends. I know it will because y'all are the best. Finally, join us on Twitch. That's where we're going to be playing all these cool new games.